There is a specific coldness that settles in when you realize the energy of a room has shifted. The smiles no longer reach the eyes of your colleagues. Conversations stop when you walk in. You are no longer one of them. Your immediate biological instinct is to panic, to explain yourself, and to scramble back into the safety of the group. But arguing with the mob validates their influence. It signals that their collective opinion has the power to disturb your internal state, causing you to waste energy defending a position they have already decided is forfeit. This is a mechanical demonstration of the crab bucket effect. Social groups often operate on a shared equilibrium of behavior and status. When one member begins to rise, improving their habits, their finances, or their focus, it disrupts the internal comfort of the rest. To maintain the group's baseline, the other members exert a downward force to pull the deviating member back to their level. Their agitation is a signal. It confirms you have broken the group's unspoken contract of stagnation. Viewed this way, opposition isn't a social tragedy. It is a coordinate that proves you are gaining velocity. At this stage, reasoning is useless. You are facing a systemic reaction, not a logical argument. To survive, you must stop seeking readmission and start treating the conflict as a problem of leverage. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this shift perfectly. He was exiled, stripped of his post, and physically tortured by his allies. He did not spend his exile begging for a pardon. He retreated to his home, washed the blood off his hands, and spent his nights documenting the very forces that had been used against him. The result was the prince. Machiavelli's victory wasn't found in a return to his old job, but in the longevity of his work. His ideas on power outlasted the regimes of every person who participated in his torture. To win against impossible odds, you must use the weight of the world's opposition to forge a new foundation. Conflict requires two active participants to maintain its momentum. Gossip and social hostility act like a fire. They need the constant fuel of your reaction and your drama to stay visible. When Machiavelli was forced out of the Palazzo Vecchio, he didn't stand in the square demanding justice. He vanished. He retreated to his farm in San Andrea and became a ghost to the Florentine elite. This is the strategy of the void. By offering absolute silence, you remove the target. When you give your attackers nothing to burn, they are forced to turn their attention elsewhere. Absence creates a psychological vacuum. While you are silent, you are working, but they cannot see your progress. This shifts the focus from your defense to their imagination. They begin to wonder why you aren't scared, and eventually the paranoia of the unknown shifts from you to them. In many cases, you cannot simply leave. You may be trapped in an office or a household where hostility is constant. In these environments, survival requires you to hide your progress behind a mask of mediocrity. Historians note that Lucius Brutus survived the murderous King Tarquin by pretending to be a simpleton. He played the submissive fool for years, becoming so seemingly harmless that the court ignored him entirely, until the exact moment he led the revolution that overthrew the monarchy. This is the mechanism of anti-fragility. Instead of just trying to survive the pressure, you use the incoming energy of the attack to reinforce your own structure. You treat insults as feedback data. If an enemy claims you are arrogant, they have identified a flaw in your social camouflage that needs to be masked. If they mock your lack of resources, they are pointing directly at the logistical vulnerability you need to patch. Your enemies are your most honest auditors. They will tell you the brutal truths your friends are too polite to mention. The pressure they apply forces you to identify and fix your weaknesses far faster than a comfortable environment ever would. A hostile group often appears to be a united front, but this is usually an illusion. Most mobs are held together by a temporary common interest or the fear of being the next target. Every structure has a point of failure, a loose brick. In a hostile group, there is often one person who is less committed than the others, or perhaps secretly resentful of the group's leadership. By identifying this person and quietly highlighting the friction that already exists within the group, you introduce a virus of doubt. When the consensus of the mob is broken, the wall begins to collapse from within, as members shift their focus from attacking you to defending their own positions against one another. Once the group's momentum is redirected inward, their ability to project power against you evaporates. You have dismantled an army without engaging in a single direct confrontation. When a group rejects you, they remove your access to their shared resources and validation. This forces a transition. You can no longer rely on external systems for your security. You have to build your own infrastructure, your own sources of income, your own emotional stability, and your own perspective, because the alternative is to disappear. This leads to a state of overmatch. You aren't just surviving the group, you are building a life and a set of capabilities that are so distinct from theirs that their opinions no longer have the capacity to reach you. When Steve Jobs was ousted from Apple, he used his wilderness years to build Next and Pixar. He didn't just wait for a return, he developed the management skills and technological leverage that made him the only person capable of saving Apple when it later faced bankruptcy. This mirrors the patient reinvention seen in The Count of Monte Cristo. The goal of the isolation period isn't revenge, but the creation of a version of yourself that treats your former enemies with absolute, polite indifference. This is the logic of amor fati, loving the fate that brought you here. Just as a pilot uses opposing wind to generate the lift required for takeoff, you use the resistance of your enemies to provide the friction needed for your own ascent. The group's attempt to bury you was an initiation. By removing your safety net, they provided the exact pressure required to force you into self-reliance. You didn't just survive their attempt to exclude you, you built a fortress they no longer have the leverage to enter.